that it drew me up into the wheel on this beam of light. I sat beside the pilot, but I could not see him. And I knew he was taking me to that great wheel that I talked about in a Washington Post editorial board meeting, when Ben Bradley at the end of the meeting asked me, what about this wheel business? And I reached in my bag and I talked about President Jimmy Carter, who saw these wheels and said when he became president, he would open it up. But when he became president, that is above top secret. You don't talk about the wheel. I told them that on the front page of the Washington Post, a major in the Japanese Air Force was flying a 747 over the Bering Straits and clocked it for an hour and a half and gave the measurements of it. He said it was like two of the largest aircraft carriers together. And the largest aircraft carriers 440 yards, and two of them is a half a mile. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had taught me that it's a half a mile by a half a mile. Now listen, on the front page of the Washington Post, this man measured and made a picture of the relationship of the 747 to that giant wheel. And it was, the 747 was like a speck. Well, I was taken to that wheel. The pilot knew that I was afraid, so he maneuvered his craft so that I wouldn't see it. And then he moved into a bay light. I don't take time to describe that part of it. But he came and opened the door for me and ushered me into a room. I still haven't seen him. And in that room, there was a speaker in the center of the room, and it was like a room that you could peel back the, it's like an accordion, but it's made out of metal, like something you have on your fire place that is fanned out like this. Well, that whole room was like that, so that if you rolled the fan back, you could see a much larger room. But suffice it to say that in the center of that was a speaker. And I heard the voice of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now listen to me carefully. I know my leader's voice, and I know we had a funeral, and I know the world thinks he's dead. But I know that he spoke to me. Before he spoke, a scroll had rolled down in front of me with cursive writing on it. And as I got closer to read the scroll in English, he spoke. I asked him a question, very personal, about my personal life, and he dismissed it. I didn't bring you up here for that. This is telepathic. Now, I don't hear his voice then, but it's like telepathic. I didn't bring you up here for that. And he gave me something quick that answered that. And then he said these words. Quote, the president has met with his Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a war. Listen. He said, I want you to hold a press conference and make his plans known and tell them that you got it from me, Elijah Muhammad, on the wheel. You have one more thing to do, he said, and then you can come again to the wheel, and I will allow you to see me face to face. And then he dismissed me. I went to the door. The man, whoever the pilot was, he opened the door to the craft, let me in, went around, and that craft shot out of that mother plane and then went up to a terrific height and turned so I could look down on it. It is like a city in the sky. It's in your Bible. It's called the New Jerusalem. I saw it come down, it says, from heaven, like a bride adorned. It's a city, but in that city is a whole new wisdom, a whole new life, and that life will come to this planet. It has two dispositions, one to destroy America, and the other to plant new life in America and new life on our planet that comes directly from God. Now, this is my experience, not yours. You can believe me or let it alone. Now, let me tell you the truth of that experience. I woke up the next morning. I didn't remember anything. That was the morning of the 18th of September, 1985. The morning of the 19th, at about 8:10 in the morning, I was getting up late to make my prayer, and as I stood up to pray, the whole room began to shake. It was that great earthquake that affected Mexico City on September the 19th, 1985. I left the village of Tepoztlan and went to Mother Tinetta's home, as she lives in Mexico. And as I was going up the stairs, pardon me, to her kitchen, the whole thing came back to me, and I repeated it to my wife and to Mother Tinetta. Now, I told it to some that are around me, and some said, look, Farrakhan, if I were you, I wouldn't mention that because people would think that you kind of lost it, you know what I'm saying?